joining us today, and here I have with me Liz Copeland, who is a divorce mentor. And Liz is going to talk to us about the various stages of divorce, what we should be doing, and how a divorce mentor can actually help us. So welcome, Liz. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Actually, Liz, I think it's a lot, I mean, myself included, a lot of us here today who've tuned in, we don't actually know what a divorce mentor does. Can you perhaps talk us through what a divorce mentor actually is?
Well, as a divorce mentor, I am coaching and mentoring people through divorce. The process of coaching is slightly different to the process of mentoring.
Right.
In that, as a coach, you stand back, you let people develop their own ideas, you give them the tools and tricks that they need to do that. You're not giving them advice, you're not giving them a particular path to tread on. I do a lot of that, but I also do mentoring because I've walked the path of divorce myself.
Right.
So sometimes it is outlining options to people and saying you can do A, B, and C, and you can explain things to them. So I give a bit of advice and coaching as well.
Right. I mean, what sort of benefits can a divorce mentor actually bring to a woman going through a divorce today?
Well, I think it's very useful to have someone who can stand outside the process, but also be on your side.
Right.
And you'll find that friends and relatives and colleagues at work and so on, they all kind of have a vested interest in what's going on, or they will have a particular point of view. And you can gain a lot from them, but sometimes it's better to have somebody who's outside the situation, who is a professional and who knows how to guide you, but also who is trained in enabling you to make up your own mind and develop your own procedure and way through the divorce path.
I mean, sometimes that whole divorce process could take some time. And I mean, at what stage would you actually get involved as a mentor?
It will vary. Some people come to me when they are thinking about divorce, so they haven't started the divorce process. That's interesting because I do get people who end up not getting divorced.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's not because I'm offering some wonderful relationship counseling. It's sometimes people come thinking that their marriage is on the rocks, and in fact they're having some sort of midlife crisis, or they're dissatisfied with their work in some way. They have a dissatisfaction that they think is their marriage, but it isn't.
Right.
And because the work I do, one of the first things I do is I focus on people's values, what the values are in life, whether they're being reflected in their life, and also what goals they have, what outcomes they want from their life. All these dissatisfactions come to the surface.
Right.
And at that point, sometimes the penny will drop and they'll say, actually, it's not my marriage that is the problem, it's my life that's the problem. So can we coach on that instead? So it can be before divorce. Sometimes it's for a specific issue. So they will have a particular negotiation or a particular meeting that's coming up with their ex. And they want to learn some snippy-snappy negotiating skills and communication skills. So I do some sort of single issue coaching where we'll just focus on one thing and we'll do a short coaching session together around that.
And typically, what would one of those one things be?
What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Well, you said you might sort of coach on a single issue. What's typically what would be a single issue that you might get involved with?
Fairly typical. A woman will come to me to say, I've got a meeting with my husband to discuss the divorce settlement, or I've got a meeting with him and his lawyer. We've got this negotiation coming up. I feel I'm going to be railroaded into agreeing with what he wants.
Right.
Because he is so reasonable. He makes it all sound so reasonable. And even though I know I'm not getting a good deal, I find it difficult to say no.
Right, okay.
So it can be just getting over that niceness. Most of the women I work with are not sort of avenging harpies. They are nice women who want to get through divorce in as civilized a way as possible. And it's just helping them overcome that innate tendency to be nice so that they can actually get what they want in the negotiation process.
Right. And I mean, and typically if somebody comes to you, said obviously you get people, before they decided to divorce and perhaps decided not to divorce at all, but typically over what period of time would you work with somebody through a divorce, and how often would you meet them face to face, or would you do it by telephone or Skype or a mixture of all three?
I usually do telephone or Skype. I rarely meet people face to face. That can be arranged, but doing it by telephone or Skype allows me to work over a greater geographical area, so that's useful. And I would typically say, let's start with 3 months worth of coaching. If you feel you need ongoing coaching and support, let's set goals for 3 months worth of coaching. I like to give people a finite time so that they know what the commitment is going to be, partly financially and also partly in terms of time and partly in terms of energy. Because the 3 things that will deplete very quickly in divorce will be your money, your time. Divorce is a great time wasting process, and also the energy that you have to do it. And you can't get the full benefit of coaching if you're not going to put the whole of yourself into it when you're doing it.
All right. And I mean, and you talk about, obviously that's a 3-month period. Does that sort of correspond to the stages of a divorce? Have you sort of worked out 3 months is typically how long it takes, or should take?
It would be lovely if you could get divorce over and done with in 3 months. We wish. I usually say to people, allow at least 6 months for it, because you're waiting for judges to stamp things on bits of paper, and the legal processes can be time consuming. I like to set it to 3 months because that's long enough for me to get to know the client, and they will get to know me, and we can get a lot of very specific outcomes achieved in that time.
Right.
But it's very difficult at the beginning of a divorce to know what you will want in 6 months' time or a year's time. So if some people might be working with me for a year because that's what they require when they come to the end of the 3 months. But I don't want you committing to that, because who knows what you're going to be doing in 3 or 6 months' time.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and from your perspective, what are the key stages? Can you break down a divorce into key stages?
Survival stage, and survival stage.
Right.
More realistically, the initial stage is getting over the emotional shock of divorce, whether you are the leaver or the leavee. If you're the leaver, you've got the initiative emotionally, but it's still a shock as to how you got into this place. If you are being left, then quite often that can come as a shock. So there's the immediate emotional shock, all of the negative emotions around that. So anger, sadness, bereavement, quite often people will express to you, a feeling of loss, all of those things. Running alongside that, the next phase is getting into the practical stuff. So working out what you're going to do with your lawyer, how the finance is going to work, where you're going to put the children, how you're going to manage them. Everybody always wants to give away the teenagers. No, that's just a joke.
Don't argue over that. More interested in keeping the dog. Yes.
So all of that sort of stuff has to be worked out. And of course, you might still be very angry or very sad or very upset while you're having to work those things out. But that's really a separate phase to the divorce process. And that's where other divorce professionals come in. So you might have your lawyer, you might have your financial advisor, but I hate dealing with the emotions. So you have to deal with the emotions separately. And then the third phase is when you get into the recovery phase. You've got most of the things in the divorce sorted out, and you're starting to look at what will my life look like afterwards.
Right.
So rebuilding your life and rebuilding your future post-divorce.
Right. And I know what we're going to do. We're going to sort of cover each of those 3 stages separately, aren't we? And talk through those stages and things, give people perhaps some hints and tips as to how to get through those in our 3 further videos. So hopefully people will tune in for those. So we're going to do, as you said, all those 3 stages mentioned. So the beginning of it, dealing with the legal bits and pieces, and then moving on and rebuilding your life. So thank you for joining us to discuss what a divorce mentor can do. We hope people will join us for the future discussions.
Great.